let's say that it would be restoration of part of the building only, but immediately you've got those data, you are very likely, and it's quite easy and quite cost effective to actually draft landscapes around because you've got that model already. And to integrate those two parts together is all the way sudden much easier from the professional's point of view. So then maybe the budget would allow all the way sudden, the budget doesn't need to be, for basically there is not a need for another project. It's being a part of the same project, and all the way sudden maybe the costs, because they are not as extensive, the budget would allow for greater landscapes around these facilities. And yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it can be, definitely better than what we are seeing. Very often, I think it's the basics which we are seeing. They are sort of done, not anything else.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think just to go back slightly, back to the sort of like more hard tech side, especially around BIM. So, for instance, more on the architecture side, talking about its role in sort of understanding efficiencies and things, and effectiveness. One of the big, again, I appreciate it might not be your area so much, and nor is it mine, but I know that a lot of the BIM models can also calculate things. I can't even remember the term now. If is it U values or K values or whatever it is for the architects to deal with around sort of the thermal properties of walls and things like that. It's so that you can draw your wall, you can design your wall, draw it in, and then it will tell you what the value of that wall is. So as you're sort of drawing the building, you're sort of getting that data straight away as to actually the thermal values and properties of it. And then eventually you can start factoring in things like costs and quantifying the materials as well. So all of a sudden you've got, okay, right, we've drawn our walls. We know how much material there is. So we know the cost. So we know the thermal value, which means we know how much energy we're going to need to heat it and all those things. So all of a sudden, like just from drawing a wall, you're building up all that additional information that you need. And that obviously applies to the landscape too. If we're drawing a driveway, if you've detailed that up in the system, it will tell you how much hardcore you need to go underneath it, how many pavers there are, all of those kind of things. So I don't know how much you know about that or have gone into that, but to me, that's very much the future, and what I've talked to a lot of people about is like being what we need. If I'd as a designer typically use the same paving for car parking spaces, for instance, because we've got to have lots of those going property developments. Once you've designed it once, that's it. You're minimally going to change that specification, but then every time you use it thereafter, you've got all that data that you need about all those quantities and everything that will be really helpful. And I think people talk a lot about AI taking jobs, but I think this is another aside here. But I think it's interesting to explore as well the impact of that, because I was talking to some quantity surveyors recently, and I was just sort of thinking, how secure a job is that? Because actually, as we move to more and more of this tech, more and more of that can be done within the tech. I mean, we do a lot of our own quantity stuff now because we've already got all the areas of everything. You can calculate it fairly quickly, but that's becoming more and more and more and more efficient all the time. So even ignoring AI, like just the better technologies that are coming out, it's becoming clearer and easier to understand actually what can be implemented, the costs and everything else.